Who is the greatest? Matthew, Mark, and Luke often recount the same stories, yet each shapes the material differently. These variations are not accidental. They reveal the unique theological voice of each gospel writer. Today, we will explore how all three synoptics answer the question, who is the greatest, found in Matthew 18, Mark 9, and Luke 9. Our focus will be on the environments in which each evangelist sets the story and how those locations illuminate their theological intentions. Across the Synoptic Gospels, the core of the story remains the same. The disciples become preoccupied with status, and Jesus responds by redefining greatness in terms of humility and welcome. What differs is the setting. Mark places the scene in a house in Capernaum. It's private, intimate, and corrective. Matthew situates it within a formal teaching discourse, public, structured, communal. Luke embeds it on the road during the journey to Jerusalem, open, dynamic, mission-oriented. These environments are the interpretive keys that unlock each evangelist's theological agenda. Mark's account is widely regarded as the earliest. Its setting is precise. Jesus and the disciples enter a house in Capernaum. In Mark's gospel, the house is a consistent site of private revelation and intimate correction. Here, Jesus asks, "What were you arguing about on the way?" Mark alone tells us the disciples fall silent because they were arguing about who was the greatest. Their silence exposes their shame. Mark creates a deliberate contrast. On the road, they compete. In the house, Jesus reshapes their imagination. He sits and teaches, if anyone wants to be first, he must be last of all and servant of all. Mark alone includes the deeply tender detail that Jesus embraces the child he places in their midst. This gesture embodies his teaching. In the hidden, vulnerable spaces of life, greatness is measured not by status, but by service. Mark's intimate environment supports his themes of discipleship failure, misunderstanding, and the paradoxical nature of the kingdom, where divine revelation often occurs away from the open public. Matthew relocates the episode to a very different environment. Instead of narrating an argument or disciple embarrassment, Matthew begins with a direct question: who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? This phrasing itself is distinctively Matthean. He consistently uses kingdom of heaven rather than kingdom of God, possibly reflecting reverence for the divine name and his Jewish Christian audience. Matthew positions this moment at the opening of his community discourse, one of the Gospel's 5 major teaching blocks that mirror the 5 books of Moses. Here, Jesus is the new Moses, forming a people shaped by a kingdom ethic. Matthew's Jesus calls a child into the midst of the gathered disciples and teaches 2 profound truths not found in Mark. Unless you change and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. And whoever humbles himself like this child is the greatest. Matthew reframes the question of greatness, not as a private correction, but as public instruction for the church. His focus is on humility, teachability, and community order, essential virtues for life within the kingdom of heaven. Luke gives the story yet another setting, the open road during the journey to Jerusalem. In Luke's gospel, discipleship is learned on the way. This mobile environment is significant. Jesus forms his followers in the everyday conditions of mission and movement. Luke simply tells us an argument arose among them as to which of them was the greatest. There's no embarrassment, no silence, no house. Instead, Luke highlights Jesus' perception of the reasoning of their hearts, reflecting Luke's interest in interior motivation and the psychology of discipleship. Jesus places a child beside him, a powerful image of proximity and welcome. Luke's teaching emphasizes reversal. The least among you is the one who is great. This echoes the Magnificat, the Sermon on the Plain, and many of Luke's parables in which the lowly are lifted and the proud are brought low. Luke's environment, public, open, on the road, matches his concerns for inclusive hospitality, the dignity of the marginalized, and salvation that extends to all peoples. These environmental differences become especially significant if we assume Markan priority. Mark's version is narratively fuller, more embarrassing for the disciples, more intimate, and more concrete. Both Matthew and Luke appear to edit or relocate the scene. Matthew removes the house and the argument, turning a moment of failure into a moment of instruction. Luke removes the house but keeps the argument, relocating the scene into his overarching travel narrative. These moves strongly support the idea that Mark's version is earlier, and Matthew and Luke have theological motives for replotting the environment. When we compare Matthew and Luke against Mark, we notice several overlaps. Both remove Mark's intimate household setting. Both omit Mark's detail about the disciples' silence. Both present the child as central to humility and welcome. And both smooth the story into a more general teaching context. These shared editorial decisions raise the classic Q question. Are Matthew and Luke drawing on a common sayings source that framed Jesus' teaching on humility? Or are they simply making similar redactional decisions independently? Either way, the environmental shift is part of their convergence. They move the story from a private correction to a public teaching moment, highlighting humility as a communal or universal virtue. Matthew's use of kingdom of heaven, his placement of the episode in a formal discourse, and his additions about entering the kingdom all reflect his vision of Jesus as the authoritative teacher forming a new covenant community. His emphasis on humility, teachability, and the protection of the little ones fits seamlessly with the broader themes of his gospel and his concern for the ordered life of the church. Luke highlights inner motives, status reversal, and inclusive hospitality. His place of the child beside Jesus symbolizes the nearness of the marginalized in God's kingdom. By embedding the teaching in the journey narrative, Luke demonstrates that discipleship is a lived, public, mission-shaped reality. The least become the greatest, not in theory, but in practice, on the road with Jesus. Each evangelist's environment aligns with his theological vision. Mark's house underscores hiddenness, vulnerability, and the paradoxical discovery of true greatness. Matthew's discourse setting presents greatness as a central ethic for the church community Jesus is forming. Luke's road emphasizes that greatness is practiced in the open, in mission, and through welcoming the marginalized. The same story becomes a window into three distinct portrayals of Jesus and the kingdom. The dispute over greatness reveals the rich diversity of the Synoptic Gospels. Mark emphasizes private correction, Matthew offers structured community instruction, and Luke situates discipleship within the unfolding journey of God's salvation. By attending to the environments and the theological emphases of each gospel, we gain a fuller understanding of Jesus' teaching. Greatness in God's kingdom is found in humility, service, and welcome. May Jesus' words instruct you in whatever environment you may find yourself in. Thank you.